There is a huge problem with most Klaviyo accounts doing around 50K per month. They usually have way too many flows set up, but barely any of them really moves the needle when it comes to revenue. After working inside many different ecom accounts, let me tell you, only a small number of flows are actually responsible for the majority of the revenue. So today, I'll show you the exact flow structure I would use for a 50K per month ecom brand, as well as the flows I'd completely ignore for now. So stick to the end. Alright, before we actually dive right in, let me tell you, for our clients, we usually implement around 9 to 10 flows as well, which is kind of on the higher end. But if you don't have the capacity or the knowledge, don't bother to set up all those flows because it won't really serve any purpose. Just cut the noise and focus on the highest leverage ones. Which already leads me to the problem. For some reason, I don't exactly know why, a lot of people think adding more equals better results. And this is not true. All right, let me tell you. Adding more does not always equal better results. In fact, many agencies sell you more and really complex flows at the end of the day because it sounds really good on paper when you have really highly segmented flows and all of that. But at the end of the day, this might make sense for 8 and 9 figure brands, but other than that, it doesn't really make any difference whatsoever. You're not going to notice any difference, and it's just going to cost you a lot of money as well. Now, this is a priority order. You can see really bold and fat right here. Keep it simple. Welcome flow first, abandon checkout, and then post-purchase thank you. You've probably heard it dozens of times, but I just want to tell you, when I audit healthy accounts, for example, our clients' accounts, it's always welcome flow first, most of the time abandon checkout second, and then post-purchase thank you. Sometimes abandon checkout and post-purchase thank you might switch places, but when these are the highest leverage flows, why shouldn't you optimize them first before doing some random flows after that? Start off with a welcome flow. The goal is to convert new subscribers into customers and build brand authority. So I see a lot of confusion around what to include in the welcome flow and what not to include in the welcome flow. And quite frankly, this right here is the most condensed and most accurate list I've ever seen. It's really simple. The most important elements you should include is, of course, an offer. So just offer some kind of discount to people. Then brand positioning. What does it mean? Establish your brand voice, your brand colors, your style of the emails. Don't confuse people. Have a really steady brand voice in that stage, especially. Of course, offer some social proof. Testimonials, user-generated content, link to some videos, some reviews, whatever you want to do here. Then founder story always works great. Of course, depending on the brand, if that fits your brand voice and your brand style. And then urgency. You always want to offer urgency, no matter what brand you are, what niche you're in. You might think urgency doesn't work for our brand, it doesn't fit our brand voice. But at least adding some slight urgency, some really light, subtle urgency always works wonders. Really common mistakes I see is that the welcome flow is too short. I'm talking 2 to 3 emails. And yes, this is okay, but we want to have at least 4 emails, of course, depending on the brand, depending on the niche. But especially for the last email, for the first email, we often see some really high conversion rates because adding this final urgency with some testimonials always works wonders. Now, another mistake, of course, is a weak offer. Just ask yourself, would you buy from a brand that offers you a really, really weak discount, a really weak offer? No, you wouldn't. You would go to a competitor who offers most likely pretty much the same product with a better offer. And the last thing, really important topic, really interesting topic as well. I might want to do a video about that in the future. No segmentation. I don't see a lot of brands segmenting their welcome flow, but this leaves a great room for opportunity. Basically, what I mean by that is you collect the email addresses in your website pop-up, of course. This should be your main source. And in that pop-up, if you don't live behind the moon or something, you know that you should do a micro commit by now. So just ask them some questions, what they're interested in, what they're shopping for, before you actually ask for, oh man, my microphone, before you actually ask for the email address, because this just reduces friction. And based on what they clicked, based on the interest they clicked, you can segment the welcome flow. So let's say you're a shoe brand and you're asking people what kind of shoes they want. Do they want barefoot shoes? Do they want running shoes? Do they want comfortable shoes? You can just ask them, and then in the welcome flow, you can send them a separate message, a separate email based on what they clicked, so that you show them either barefoot shoes, running shoes, comfortable shoes, because this really improves click rates. and overall conversion rates by a lot. So let me know if you want a video on how to set it up in the future. Next, abandoned checkout. Goal is to recover lost sales from high intent buyers. And the most important elements you should include in the emails is, first of all, dynamic content. Please don't miss out. Please have it set up. I do have a video about that recorded on my channel, uploaded. And I also have a guide on how to exactly set it up step by step, which kind of codes to add, everything like that, in my free resources down below. So please don't miss out. Then also social proof urgency always works great in basically any flow you have. Every flow should have social proof and urgency. And then last, you might want to consider an incentive. For a lot of brands, we do have an incentive around 15% off in the abandoned checkout flow. But of course, you want to be careful that you don't have too many discounts in your entire flow structure, but it's really worthwhile for the abandoned checkout. Common mistakes. Generic reminders. What I mean by that is no dynamic product content, essentially, because people can't see their cart this way. Bad timing as well. You always want to have a right timing and make sure you send the emails in a reasonable cadence. Again, if you want a video about setting up the abandoned checkout flow, I will also record a video about that in the future, so don't worry. Last but not least, we have no variation in angles, which basically means that you're just blasting the dynamic content, or you're just blasting social proof, or just blasting urgency, or the offer. It doesn't really matter. You should always have every email from a different angle. The first email might be dynamic product content. The second email might be dynamic product content and social proof. The third email might be social proof and urgency. And maybe the last email might be a final reminder or some more urgency. Of course, you can also do emails with incentives. So it's really up to you. Just make sure you have different angles. Third, post-purchase flow. Goal is to remove buyer's remorse, build a relationship with the customer, and drive repeat sales. Most important elements, we have product education, which actually I don't see a lot of brands do. If you have a product that is kind of hard to use, or there might be some questions around how to properly use it, how to make it last longer, stuff like that, just educate people about the product. And this way you're really removing the buyer's remorse already. Then next thing, brand story. Of course, we already mentioned it in the welcome flow, but it's also a great way for people to get more familiar with your brand, to kind of build trust as well. Then we have usage tips, which is kind of tied to the product education, but more practical guides on specific products, for example. And last thing is expectations. If you tell people, hey, you can expect this, you can expect that, people will already be more enticed. They will really wait for the product. They'll be happy when they receive it, and they'll exactly know what to do as well. Common mistakes I see a lot of times is only sending an order confirmation. Many brands only have 3 flows set up, where basically every one of those 3 emails is just an order confirmation. Hey, your product will arrive soon, etc., etc. This doesn't really serve any purpose. People will already get order confirmations by the shipping providers, so most of the time it doesn't really make any sense. Then flows too short. You want to have at least 5 emails, because especially for the post-purchase flow, you want to make sure that you build a relationship with the customer and start from the moment they purchased until the moment they really tried the product, they're happy with the product, because this is a great opportunity to guide people on the way. People should not feel buyer's remorse when they don't receive emails from you or any content during the time where the product might be delayed and might be kind of shipped in 10 days from now or something. So make sure you always have emails sent out during that time. Last thing, as I already mentioned for the welcome flow, no tailored flow paths and segmentation. We're going to go into that in future videos, but for me, for our brand, I personally like to have the post-purchase flow split into completely different flows. So first purchase, thank you, repeat purchase, thank you, and then kind of the VIP, which is also post-purchase flow, of course. If you just want to tie it into one entire post-purchase flow, of course, have different paths that people go down based on their history as a customer. Now, if you've reviewed those 3 flows, set everything up, improved everything, you can move on with the abandoned cart, browse abandonment, really important, those 2 especially, then win bag, VIP, inside abandonment. Also, of course, gonna make videos about that in the future. Now, really important, before you switch off, what not to do first, probably more important than what to do first. Don't do complex upsell systems. You think it's really high converting when you're setting up many different paths and many different conditional splits and stuff like that. Just don't do it. You might run into issues and people might not enter the flow properly. Leave it as is. Have it really simple, set up really simple. 1 or 2 conditional splits maximum. Then also advanced niche automation and brand-specific edge cases. I really say it this way because many brands think that because they're kind of unique, kind of special, they also need unique and special flows. No, this is not the case. They won't convert. You can try it out. Most of the time, they won't really move the needle. There are some certain brands where it really makes sense to have a specific upsell flow or a cross-sell flow, but this is really not the standard. Don't do it. It costs a lot of effort and doesn't really make any difference. And what's the takeaway? Most 50K per month brands would make more money by optimizing their core flows than by adding 5 new ones. Subtract rather than adding. This is really important. Just boil it down to the most important stuff and this will really make the magic. Now, if you're looking for in-depth Klaviyo tutorials, you might want to check out this playlist right here. I don't exactly know, just click the playlist and see you in the next one.